So you can also check them out on Twitter after the event to connect with them, because that's the most important thing. After this kind of event, you're able to network with people and keep a relationship. So this is the agenda for today. I know we are 5 minutes away. So, but in order not to waste any time further, we're going to start our first presentation. So I would like you to welcome with me Linda. Linda Ojo is a software engineer who is focused in building functional and beautiful products. So Linda, are you here? Let me check. She's here, so that we'll just have her start our section. Yeah.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're welcome. So let me stop sharing so that we can. Okay.
All right, thank you very much. I'm getting a notification saying the host disabled attendee screen sharing. Did you get that? Okay. All right, can you
see your
guys
screen now?
Okay, that's very good. All right. So hi everyone. My name is Linda and I am a software engineer at Bikecoins. But it's just occurring to me, I think my video is also switched off. So let me switch that on so you can see my face. Just give me a moment. Okay.
Your video is up now. You can see it.
Yes. All right. So yeah, as I was saying, my name is Linda and I'm a software engineer at Bikecoins. So before I get into the talk, I want to let us know why we're talking about this. In tech, a lot of times when you're about to even start your journey, you're being told a lot, oh, you should learn this framework, learn this programming language, and all of that is good. But one thing I realized in my experience is when you actually get into a working environment, even though having technical skills is good for you, at a point in time, the non-technical skills you have are more important and create more of an impression. And the non-technical skills we're going to be looking at it in relation to two things. A is the people you are building for, right? How it's
Possibly you
perceived.
speak louder a little. Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So I was saying that it's going to be perceived in two forms, right? So how you relate with your users, and then how you relate with the people that you are building with. So the first thing we're going to go to is empathy, right? As a developer, you can't just be building with yourself in mind. You are working with people to build for users who we all love. And you have to ask yourself, what does the user need? What do they feel? You're not building for the user, you're building with the user. If you don't put yourself in the position of the user, you create something that no one can use. So as you can see here on my screen, empathy is the ability to understand and share the feeling of another person. So as developers, we're first humans before we're developers. And that is or should be obvious, right? But sometimes it's so easy to get wrapped up in this identity of, oh, I'm a programmer, I'm a developer. All I tweet about is this, is what programming language and that. But you should not forget that even in being a developer, we can show the human side of us. And even though, okay, you're building pretty good products for your users, how are you working with your colleagues, the people you're working with, right? So not everyone is a tech pro, not everyone writes code. So we all have different perspectives. So you should take that into consideration when you're working with another person. For instance, the PM. And there's a lot of like talk about PM, I mean product manager. There's a lot of talk about and jokes about how developers and product managers can have different views. But I think a lot of clashes happen because people are not taking into consideration the things that, okay, how things are working from the from the product manager's side, and how things are working from the developer's point of view. So if you can sit and know that, okay, I'm not here to fight, I'm not here to argue, we're all creating with one goal in mind, you can work together to create something beautiful. Next thing is effective communication. Now, this is so important. I think a lot of people even put it as the first thing on their list. It's not just about communicating, it has to be effective, right? So you can speak verbally or written. You have to be able to to communicate effectively in both forms. Like for instance, now Bitcoins, we don't hold meetings often, but we do a lot of writing. For every pitch, every task, you have it documented. You don't want to have to go in circles asking, oh, what did you say about this? What did you say about that? And there's sometimes that you might have different views on how to solve a particular problem. If you're not, you don't want to be that person that has to like jump on a meeting at every issue. You have to be able to communicate properly your views and why you think, okay, this is the preferred solution without hurting the feelings of another person. So here is this cliche image saying that you should always take into perspective, you should always take perspective into consideration when communicating. You can't just hold on to one point of view. You have to be open-minded to know that, okay, even though I see it from this point, I know that this other person, we also have the same goal, and the person could have a valid point too. You have to be open to work together to create beautiful products. Next is honesty. And I mean honesty down to the little things, even the white lies. Like you shouldn't say, oh, I can finish this project in 3 days when you would need a week. And if maybe you even thought you could finish the product in 3 days, at the point where you realize that, okay, I can't finish this product in 3 days, tell your client, tell your manager, oh, okay, I'll need a few more days for this. Don't wait until the person has to like come back or feedback and be like, oh, where is this? So you have to be proactive basically, and to be able to like tell the truth as you face things. If you're asked something, especially during like your interviews, if you don't know a framework, you say, oh, I don't know this. But the fun part is that you can always learn. So I don't know this, but I can learn this. And honesty actually saves everyone's time. Like if you start off with a lie at a point in time, maybe if you don't get found out, that's cool. But at a point in time, it's going to come out and it's going to be like so annoying. Like, why weren't you just honest from the beginning, right? Like, why didn't you just say the truth? And even though these are things that people should know, sometimes knowing something and putting it to work is different. There's a gap between that, right? So you have to know that, okay, I'm going to make conscious effort to be honest and to about my technical skills, about what I can do, what I can't do, and the time frame and everything. Next is time management. So now, okay, let's say yes, you know how to write the code, you know how to use the frameworks, right? But can you make time to actually do the work? And it's not about doing any work, right? It's about prioritizing, doing the right work at the right time. You have to know, okay, oh, we're going to push this, and this particular PR is very important. It's very important for this particular pull request to be merged. It's very important that this user gets this product because this support gets a lot of complaint about this particular bug. So you can see how it overlaps, like empathy, thinking of what the customer support team in your company or where you're working with is facing, and knowing that, okay, you're going to give this task priority so you can take the burden off of them. It's not just about, oh, writing the code that you enjoy or is easy for you, but you have to try and think of the overall goal for the team and taking everyone into consideration. So you have to also be honest with yourself to know that, okay, what are my peak times, what are times I'm not in the mood to work, and then work around that. Having a habit of, let's say, being effective doesn't just happen by chance. Habits and good habits, they thrive in a good system, right? So if a habit is so hard to keep up with, it's probably because the system around you, the environment, the routine you have does not support that habit. So you can check it out and see, okay, what can I do, or what do I do that makes me lose track of time? For instance, now one habit I have that developed is that I keep all social media stuff and chatting to my phone. I only do that on my phone, but then anything related to work and stuff, I do that on my laptop. So I don't watch Netflix on my laptop. I don't use Twitter on my laptop. That way I know whenever my laptop is open, I'm opening it to work. And then when I'm with my phone, I am, using social media and stuff. That's just a simple switch, but it made a lot of difference in my work lifestyle, especially as I started working from home. Next is approachability. I would say this is the last thing. In all of this, we are developers, and not, I know that, okay, I say developers a lot, but there are a lot of people that might not be developers, but it also applies to you as other things have. What we have all grown by the resources that have been made available to us, right? And we have to be able to give that back. You have to be able to help others because you're also helped. And be it in any way that you can, you find your preferred mode of teaching, of sharing content, and put it out there. You shouldn't just like take in a lot of content and not like help back. This is not pressure, but you should be willing to like help and answer people. And it may not even be okay out there on social media, even at work. What are you like? Are you willing to help the junior developers, people under you to grow? Do they feel comfortable coming to you when they have an issue? Would you help them without making them feel insecure or feel a little bit stupid? You have to be able to take that into consideration and know that, okay, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here if you need me. I can help you with this bug. I can help you with this problem. I can guide you. You don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. You don't have to spend so many hours Googling the same things that I did. So you should be willing to like help others, let them know they're there for you, share opportunities. If you see opportunities on social media, share them so others can come in and better their lives. So that's it. I hope with the past few points, this is not a debate, but yeah, I'm just saying that with the qualities that we've mentioned, I hope you take them into practice to become a better, not just developer, a better worker, a better person. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Linda. Do we have any questions for her? If you have any question, you can just
And drop it on the chat box while we respond to it.
welcome, Diola. So may I think Linda is still around. So if any question pops up, we'll call her. But right about now, let's go to the next speaker so as to save more time. So we have Abigail here.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
wait just a minute. Let me share my screen. A little introduction. So this is Abigail Makoko. She's a product designer and open source design. I don't know. Yeah, so Abigail is a product designer and a QA supervisor at eHealth for Everyone, where she designs and manages digital products that help save lives. She's an all-round tech enthusiast with interest and experience in development, software design, development, documentation, mentoring, and open source. Abigail loves open source and is passionate about helping people learn how they can grow as open source contributors. So join me as I welcome Abigail here. So Abigail, I don't know.
Is she here?
I think
Yes, she's here.
she's here.
Hi everyone.
You're
Good morning.
welcome.
Hey,
Yes.
welcome.
You, I couldn't unmute myself earlier, so that's
Yeah, sorry about that.
no problem. So I'll just share my screen now, so you can. Okay. So can you see my screen? Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Great. So today I'll be talking about open sourcing your way up. This topic is something I'm quite passionate about. Sorry, give me a second. I want to share something to the chat. I can't, yeah, I need to share something to the chat. This session is going to be quite interactive, just a little bit though. So if you can just go to slido.com and input the code 70242. I'll be sending some polls there, so I would like your input, and you can send me questions as well on that platform. So yeah, back to sharing my screen. All right, I am Abigail Makolo. I'm an open source design advocate. Avocado, that's what it is really. And in as much as I'm passionate about open source design, that's not what I will be focusing on today. I just want to explain or encourage you to just jump on the train of open source, no matter your skill, no matter your career, like designer, developer, whatever. Okay, so here is my first poll. It's a question. Do you know about open source? So I'm waiting for you to go on slido.com. The code is 70242, and I'll see your responses here. Okay. So we have about 50% who have contributed, they know about open source, and then we have, oh, okay, it's moving. Yeah. There are people who have heard about it, but they probably haven't contributed. Oh, and I see the balance, 43%, 43%, and 14%. Oh, wow, this is nice. So approximately about 50% of you know about open source, but you haven't contributed to it. So that is the whole purpose of this talk, really, just to encourage you to see open source as your way up in your career, in developing yourself and other things. All right, so what is open source? Anything that is open source can be read, can be modified and shared by others because its design or its code is something that is publicly accessible, right? It doesn't always have to be code. It can also be a design. It can also be just a document, really. When it's open source, it just means everyone else, so anyone who is interested can contribute to it, can use it in their personal projects and all of that. So that is what open source is about. Now, here's another question. This is a kind of word cloud. What are some of the things you imagine when you think of open source? Like, what are some words that come to your mind when you hear open source? So I'm waiting for your responses. 3, okay. Code. 3. Yeah, so I like that you all, or most of you, have a good idea about open source. Most times open source projects are free. And yes, I love that I'm seeing the word community, because it's all about working together, building a community and growing with people, contributing things to the society. Absolutely. Open source is about all of that and even more. So anyone can contribute and you can improve on anything that is existing. So open source really is about collaboration, working together, improving together, ideating together, growing together. That's what it's all about. There's transparency. It's basically community-driven development, right? You don't grow alone. You don't develop alone, right? There's no one who's an island in the open source field. Everyone works together for good. So this is something that my friends at Open Source Community Africa said. The future is open, and this has stuck with me ever since the Oscar Fest earlier this year in February. The future is open, really. In the future, in fact, even now, many people are doing things in a way that is open, in a way that anyone can easily access. And that really is what the future is, right? So how can you leverage this in your career? How can you develop yourself knowing that the future is open? Are you going to be one of the next billion creators, like they would say? Yeah, so if open source is something you're interested in, then it can definitely be your way up. What I mean is it gives you the opportunity to make an impact, right? I like that someone earlier said it's about improving something that exists. Every little time you make a change, you know, your contribution gets accepted, you're making impact, no matter how small it is. And that kind of makes you feel happy about yourself. Because most times, many people do work that they don't feel happy about because they don't feel they're making an impact. But with open source, you get the opportunity to make an impact every time. And while you're doing that, you're growing your career as well. You can always have your contributions in your portfolio and talk about the stuff that you've done for software that is open source and accessible to everyone. So you're growing your career, not just because of what you're doing, but you're also improving your people skills. Open source is about communities, right? And communities are made of people. So how you get to interact with those people will definitely improve as you start to contribute to open source. And contributing to open source software or open source projects gives you the opportunity to gain remote work experience. You can be working on a project that was created by someone in Canada or in the United States or even in Rwanda. But from here, from the comfort of your home or from your office or wherever you are, you can gain remote work experience. And really, if there's anything COVID-19 has taught us, it's that everything now can be done remotely, basically almost everything. So this kind of experience will definitely be good for you, especially when you're seeking opportunities for remote work. You can always say, oh, I've contributed to this project remotely, or I've done that remotely, and that's just awesome. And then there's another nice side about open source. There are actually some paid opportunities. So it's not always free all the time. I mean, that's what we're going for, free software, free projects. But there are paid opportunities that encourage you to contribute some more to open source. There is Google Summer of Code, there is Google Summer of Docs, there is Outreachy. There are these amazing opportunities to work with open source communities that expose you to the whole concept and allow you to make positive impact with your work. So yeah, this is from the open source guides. Basically, that's the first place you should go if you're looking to contribute to open source. It says contributing to open source can be a rewarding way to learn, teach, and build experience in just about any skill you can imagine. And I'm serious, basically any skill. Like, you can be a designer, a developer, a researcher, a technical writer, and anything, even a product manager, a translator, or a donator, or a tester, really. It just helps you build your skills. You don't have to know how to code to be able to contribute to open source projects. The thing is that it's even these other roles apart from development that are often ignored by people. They think, well, I don't code, so I can't contribute. But actually, open source projects need your help. They need you to design some logo or a t-shirt. They need you to research on users. They need you to design the interface or write up the documentation, or even just organize the GitHub repository. So you can contribute no matter the skill that you have in tech. Right, so how do you get started? First step, find an open source project to contribute to. It's very important. It could be something that you already use. There's so many of them. I mean, there's Android, there's Apache, there's Linux, there's GNOME project. There's so many, even WordPress, right? And for design, there's Figma communities as well. So find an open source project to contribute to. I would encourage going for something that you're passionate about. Then join the community. Each open source project has a community of people who contribute to the project, who discuss and try to improve the project together. And the good thing with those communities is you can get a lot from them. You can get mentors, you can get peer reviews for your work, and you can basically just learn how other people work and improve your skills as well. And you can make meaningful contributions. In open source, always remember, quality over quantity. It doesn't matter how small or how few your contributions are, but try to make them of the best quality you can. If you're coding, use the best coding practices that you know how. If you're designing, follow the best design process. If you're writing, please keep your writing organized. Just make meaningful contributions, because that is what actually leaves a mark for you. Then collaborate. Please don't isolate yourself. Open is about growing together, right? Learn and grow from others, and open source your growth. What I mean by open source your growth is, if you're making stuff, if you're doing interesting things, don't keep it to yourself. Tell people about it. You can write about it. You can put it on your website. You can encourage other people to do what you're doing. Open source it. Make it easily accessible to everyone. Yeah, so this is a final question. What do you think could make it challenging for you to contribute to open source? What are some of the things you feel, I just can't do it? Like, is there anything like that? Okay, I don't even think I'm sharing responses for this question, but it's something I want to go back to later and see if there's any way I can help. So you can always reach out to me on Twitter or on LinkedIn. Complex code bases. Nigeria, are you serious? Wow, please. Open source transcends borders, so please don't let Nigeria stop you. There are literally projects outside Nigeria that you would love to contribute to. And if you're talking about internet connectivity and all of that, then, well, we live in Nigeria for a living. Not having a full idea about what the platform is about. Yes, that's often a challenge for people that are looking to contribute to open source. And I'll encourage you to do this. Once you find an open source project and you found the repository on GitHub or GitLab, you should look through the documentation. You should see where there's usually a contribution guide to help you get started. And that can help you to know more about the platform. It helps if it's a platform that you've already used in the past. So that way you would just easily understand what it's about. But if you don't, you have the community to help you. Yeah. Oh, a guy who wouldn't code, you're welcome anytime. All right, so let me tell you about my open source journey. I was a coding 2019 mentor. That's a Google Coding 19 mentor with the Anita Bor community. I also joined open source communities like Open Source Community Africa and Open Source Design, the Nigerian team. And recently I contributed to Mozilla Firefox for an application they're doing. It's a mobile application browser. And recently I got called the open source design avocado by my friend Samson. So ever since, it has just stuck with me. So it actually means advocate for anyone who's asking. So that is my open source journey. And I hope that you would be more motivated to contribute to open source, see it as your way up in your career, in your growth. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at Abigail_Mac on Twitter or visit my website, abigailmakolo.com. Thank you very much. You can also ask me questions through the app. Okay, I can see one. How can I get into open source as a designer? Is there something like a
Thank you. That was an amazing session, Abigail. So thank you.
Okay. Okay, so do I go ahead? There's a question.
No, I think you have a question. You can answer the question, please. Thank you.
Okay. So it says, how can I get into open source as a designer? Is there something like a repository for designers like there is for developers, and how do I get started? Okay, so I mentioned something called open source design. You want to check it out. They have projects that you can contribute to as an open source designer. And there's a lot more actually. So you can reach out to me, we can discuss about that. You can definitely make open source contributions. You can design screens, you can do research, you can do documentation. There's a lot you can do actually, and your help is needed. So please reach out to me so we can discuss more about what you'd like to do.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to welcome Marlene. Marlene is the chairperson for PyCon Africa, co-founder for ZimboPy, director for Python Software Foundation. So Marlene, she's a co-founder of ZimboPy, a Zimbabwean non-profit that empowers women to pursue their career in technology. She's also a director at the PSF, the non-profit organization behind the popular computer programming language Python. She's based in Harare, Zimbabwe, and is a current chair of Python Africa, the annual Pan-Africa gathering of the Python community. Marlene is interested in seeing technology used for social good and to unite communities across borders globally. She has played an active role in assisting the growth of Python community across the continent for the past 3 years. In her spare time, she gets particularly excited about building games to make learning more enjoyable, and is currently pursuing a degree in computer science with the University of London. So guys, join me as I welcome Marlene. So Marlene will just be sharing her story. Ours will be more of story about herself, about her journey. Then I'll ask her a few questions, and you're also free to ask her questions. So if you have questions for her, you can start preparing it, send it to the chat section, and we'll ask the question during the course of the event. Thank you so much. So Marlene, over to you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Perfect. Well, like Tammy said, I am just basically wanting to share a bit of my story. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the topic that is the theme of today's meeting, which is Together We Rise. And I want to talk specifically about how, as women, we can, as a community of women, empower each other and sort of rise together in the tech industry. And I'm really, really passionate about seeing women sort of, excel in the tech industry. So like Tammy mentioned, I am based in Harare, Zimbabwe, which is in the southern part of Africa. It's just above South Africa. Zimbabwe is definitely a very interesting country. We have coups actually. And I am also on the board of directors for the Python Software Foundation. And the Python Software Foundation is the organization behind the computer programming language Python. We focus a lot on advancing the Python programming language around the world, making sure that as diverse a community as possible are using the language Python. We also make sure that the Python trademarks are kept and things of that nature. So it's a very, in my country, tends to focus on a few careers for people. So my parents are really, part of that group of people that think you're only successful and you're only a smart person if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, and maybe if you're an engineer. So maybe they can throw that in, or maybe if you're an accountant or something like that. But so I decided that, okay, I want to make a difference in society, so I'm going to become a doctor. So I went to the United States and I was studying in a part of America called Pennsylvania. And when I was there, it was a very interesting experience for me because I was at a college that was not just, you know, a normal university. It was a liberal arts college. So the first years that you were at the school, they made sure that you didn't just study the subject that you were majoring in. So I majored in molecular biology, but at the same time, I was taking liberal arts classes. So I was studying politics. I was studying, you know, theology. If you ever need a pastor to take over a service, I am very well equipped in theology. So I studied a wide range of subjects during that time. And as part of that, I also got to interact with people who grew up in very different circumstances than I had grown up in, and people who kind of thought very differently than I had thought growing up. So when I came to school, a lot of what I was planning to do was I was planning to study so that I pass my exams and I get a job. And that was like the major thing that I was thinking about when I was studying. But I remember meeting people who grew up in a space where they were really encouraged to be innovative and where they were encouraged to go to school, not to do well in school, not to just pass their classes, but to actually learn things so they can start pushing the boundaries and to start making an impact on the world in terms of creating new technologies, advocating for different people groups, and doing, you know, different things that they felt were relevant. And so that was the first time I really came into contact with people that really had that sort of mindset. And at the same time, I had a classmate of mine, a roommate of mine actually, who was also an international student. She had come to the university from Malaysia. And she had started, we both started in the same year, but her major was mathematics. And during that time, she took, her math program, she took a course in computer science. And she came back, I remember one day she came back to our room and she was so excited because she had just gotten her grades back and she'd built this program that allowed her to find the warmest pathway to walk through the school. So we were in a place that was very cold, it was snowing, and both of us were from countries that were warm climates. And so we were freezing most of the winters. It was really a terrible time to be on campus, and usually we avoided actually leaving our room because it was that cold. But what she did was she built a program that would sort of predict which areas of the campus or which pathways she could walk to, maybe the dining hall, that would be the warmest pathways. So she wouldn't risk, you know, going into a pathway that is really cold or having to go outside a lot. And it was a very cool program that she built. And for me, this was my first sort of formal introduction to the idea of being able to create something using code, using programming. And, you know, when I had been in high school, I had been taught a lot that I had taken one computers class earlier on in my high school career, but it was very basic. We learned about hardware, what's a mouse, what's a keyboard. Maybe we learned a bit about Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel, but none of it was very inspiring. And I didn't really ever think that I could potentially be the one creating the technology that I was seeing on the screen. And so when my friend came, here was someone who was also a woman. And here was someone as well who was also a non-Westerner. She wasn't from the United States, but this was someone who had so many similarities that were just like me, who had created a program and created technology that was actually useful for a problem that both of us were facing. And so that was a really great moment in my life where I could see something, and I think that's something I want to also emphasize as a lesson that I learned from that moment was, it's very, very difficult for people to become what they cannot see. And so I'm very passionate about having women, if you are in the technology industry, being very outspoken. One of the reasons why I keep choosing to speak at meetups, wanting to encourage other women, is because we need to see each other. We need to see each other doing well in tech, because when we see each other, we're able to envision ourselves in those same positions. And for me, that was a huge milestone in terms of being able to see myself as someone who could create technology. So I fast forward a bit. I sort of had taken a break from school. I finished most of my pre-med program, and I was back in Zimbabwe. And when I was in Zimbabwe, I got introduced to Python programming through the Django Girls Workshop. And I'd actually started a small organization that was helping teach other young women how to code in Python. And during this time, it was a very strange mix of events. And I got introduced to a woman who's based in Chicago. Her name is Lorena Mesa. And we were talking. She's part of the Pi Ladies group that's based in the United States. And so one of the days we were talking, and she was on the board of directors for the Python Software Foundation at the time. And I remember that elections were coming up that year. And she was just like, oh my goodness, we've never had an African person on the board. And I think that you would be a fantastic candidate to make it onto the board of directors for the Python Software Foundation. And when she said that, I was just like, I don't think so. I actually don't think so, my sister. Because I was so, I didn't think that I fit in the role. I looked at the list of people who were running that year, at the list of candidates. And all of the candidates on the list were people from these huge tech companies. There were people from Google, people from Disney. I was just like, and here is Marlene from Zimbabwe, who, I barely knew any of these people or the ecosystem well at that point. But she was very persistent, and she very much, encouraged me and said, you know what, Marlene, just give it a try. If it doesn't work out, that's okay, but at least you stepped out of your comfort zone and at least you gave it a try. So I said, okay, that's fine. And I wrote a nomination statement, I submitted it, and I managed to actually make it onto the board. And currently I'm actually on the board for my third year. This is my third year running. I was re-elected as well. And it's been such a great opportunity for me in terms of connecting me to the global Python community and giving me opportunities to connect with people that I would never have had if I hadn't taken that step. And one of the reasons why I took that initial step was because another woman pulled me up. She chose to give me encouragement. She went out of her way to let me know that, hey, you can actually try to do this. You can actually be successful. And that's something else that I would like to encourage us as a community of women in technology. When you see another woman who you think has potential, whether that's in your job, and you think, okay, this woman I think would be a great candidate for this role, let me invite her to apply for the role. Let me encourage management to give her a promotion or something like that. Try your best to do that. And let's start uniting. I really believe that women are amazing and that we can do so much more than we think. Sometimes we just need to encourage each other, and the more we do that, we'll be able to actually rise to greater heights. So that's a very brief summary of some of the major parts in my tech journey. I did want to make this a bit of an interactive session. So if anyone has specific questions, feel free to ask for me. But that's the main part of my talk done. So are there any questions that you have for me?
Yeah, so thank you so much, Marlene, for that story. It was really enlightening. So my first question for you is that what advice would you suggest for anyone just joining the tech community?
Sure. So yeah, I actually love questions like that because I think that it's really a great opportunity. I know for myself, before I transitioned into tech completely, I didn't actually have access to a computer science program right away. I had to wait for a bit before I could actually join a structured computer science program. And so I'd really encourage you, if you are someone who is looking to grow your technical skills, but you maybe don't have the money or don't have the resources or time to join a full-time program, get plugged into a tech community. This is a great place to be. International Women, this group, Google Developer Groups and the Women Techmaker group is a great group to be plugged into to get information on how you can study by yourself. Go and find the threads like 100 Days of Code, where you can talk to other developers and find out how they're learning and what they're doing. I'd also say there's PyLadies, for example, which is a great Python group that focuses on helping women who are learning Python. And that's a great place if you're learning by yourself. Don't feel like you need to do everything alone. Join in with the community and plug in there. So that's something I would suggest for sure.
All right, thank you so much. So the second question is, which resource would you suggest to people who are interested in learning Python?
Awesome. Yeah. So I definitely think there are a number of resources that I would recommend. I think the Real Python tutorial team is really great, and they post free tutorials on their site. There's also Automate the Boring Stuff, which is it's a free program that you can actually do online that teaches you how to actually use Python to build projects right away. And I would also encourage you to visit python.org, which is the PSF runs that, and they have the documentation there for Python. And so it's a great place to get started. You can also become a member and just get plugged into the community that way. I will actually send links to all the things that I mentioned after this talk. And you can also reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm Marlene_ZW on Twitter. And I'm always happy to answer any questions or direct you to any resources that you'd like. So yes, I'm seeing Samson is saying Automate the Boring Stuff is on Udemy. Yes, and the author of Automate the Boring Stuff gives out free codes to his courses very regularly. So you shouldn't pay for the course. Just follow the author. His name is Al Swagart. So follow the author and just watch out, because he regularly tweets out free codes to that course. If you want to use the video course, the other stuff is free. So
Thank you, Mary.
no problem. Thank you for having me. If no other questions, I really appreciate you inviting me. And yeah.
Yeah, so you have one question here. So the question is, I'm interested in data science, but I don't know how Python is related to data science. Can you just help me out?
Sure. I mean, data science, Python is one of the most popular languages for data science. There are a bunch of, Pandas is a great data science tool. Scikit-learn, I think, is a great data science tool as well. The Python ecosystem, I would say the data science and machine learning AI community, there's a very large data science and AI community in Nigeria that you can plug into and get resources there. If you just Google Python and data science, you can probably find all the tutorials in the world on YouTube for that. But Python is very powerful for data science. It's quite easy to get started with. Use pandas. That's a great library. Use matplotlib, great library as well to use for Python and data science. Yeah.
Thank you, Melon. So
No
that's
problem.
that's a brilliant presentation from her. So you can follow her on Twitter. She's always open to receive so many questions, and she'll definitely respond to every question you have. So on to the next speaker. Yee. Her name is Ayi. Yes, if I can get that correct. She's a machine learning engineer. Okay, so a brief history about Ayi. So Ayi began her technology journey in 2014 as a Java developer. Wow. And then started her first company in 2015. That's amazing. Where she built where she built products for companies across the globe, including the British Broadcasting Corporation. During this time, she started a free code class program to train students across Nigeria and university to acquire programming skills and then pair with employers. Yeah, that's amazing. In 2018, she transitioned into the field of machine learning and has worked on a number of computer vision projects, some of which can be found at oracle.devmovement.com. So you can check some of our amazing projects on that. She's passionate about contributing to the machine learning community and write articles and tutorials for organizations across the world. And on her blog, that's devmovements.com. You can also check that out. She's a mentor, a speaker, a writer, and currently she's the VP engineering at Vesicash. Yes. So, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Can you all hear me? Oh, okay, good. It's good to meet you all. Virtual meeting, basically. Okay, yeah. So my video. My name is Ehi, as you've already been told. I'm a co-founder and chief technology officer at Vesicash. Today we'll be learning basically about computer vision. Maybe you're new to computer vision or you're already familiar with it. I'm sure there's one or two things we can learn today. So, but for this, I don't know, for people who are new, I'll try as much as possible not to use lots of technical terms and make the session as practical as possible. In fact, I intend to make it practical. So yeah, so without wasting too much time, let's go into what we have for today. I'm sure everyone can see this image right here, right? As humans, whenever we look at an image like this, our brains try to identify what's contained in it. And yeah, so like this image, for example, I'm sure like me, you can see people sitting, right? A couple of people, there are computers in front of them. And this person on the left is smiling for some reasons. And there's a lady at the far back walking or standing, as the case maybe, we don't really know. So, but the point is, for humans, it becomes easy. It's usually easy for us to, at a glance, looking at an image, to analyze and understand what's contained in the image, right? But for a computer, it could take lots of time and training. So this is the whole idea of computer vision. All right. So what is computer vision? Right. Computer vision is basically about helping the computer to analyze visuals specifically. It could be images and videos. So at the end of the day, we want to help the computer extract information or gain knowledge from it. So the main goal, the main focus here is to go beyond processing the image. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the main focus here is to go beyond the normal image processing to actually interpreting and understanding what's contained inside of the image or what's happening in general. So the goal is to, at the end of the day, be able to write computer programs that can interpret images and videos. So what can we do with computer vision? There are tons of areas where computer vision can be applied. We've seen in self-driving cars, in autonomous system, generally, self-driving cars as an example, right? For humans, when we're driving, right, you can see, using your eyes, you can see other vehicles on the way, you can see people crossing, you can see traffic lights and all of that, and you can understand that, oh, I have to stop if the traffic light shows red, right? If there's someone crossing, I have to like slow down and all of that. So the whole goal of computer vision in self-driving cars is to be able to help the car, like, which is the computer system in this regard, to understand that, oh, there's an object at the front, there's another car on the side, so that at the end of the day, self-driving cars can avoid accidents and be efficient based on the design or achieve the goal it's supposed to achieve. So the other applications of computer vision around facial recognition, scene recognition, of course, being able to identify that, oh, there's fire burning, this scene is, there's like a fire incident here, there's an accident here, like in different scenarios, right? Being able to like say, oh, this is what happened that day, this is what is happening right now. So today we are going to be learning to build our own object detection project, basically. So we want to be able to detect objects of our choice, right? So the goal for today is that at the end of the day, be able to gain some practical understanding to build your own computer vision project. So this means that we will not necessarily be going through all the theories, right? And the main reason for this is because there are a couple of machine learning tools and deep learning tools and libraries that have been built to make building computer vision project a lot easier. So what we'll do is leverage some of these tools. Okay, they're already listed here, right? So what we'll do is leverage these tools to quickly build something that is useful while learning how computer vision works in reality. And later on, we can go ahead to learn the theory behind computer vision and deep learning, because it is very, very important that you also understand the fundamentals, the theory behind it, because to help you in the long run. So throughout this session, we are going to basically be using one of the computer vision libraries called Image AI. It's actually built by a Nigerian, right? It's built by Moses Olafenwa. So it's very interesting because it has performed better than most other computer vision libraries out there. So, and the goal, like I said, for us is to make this very practical so that we can all see how computer vision is applied and be able to build something. So I would want us to like cut so many parts, like skip having to learn the fundamentals. So we're going to be using those tools because it has pre-built classes and object detection functions that we can basically call to perform object detection. So basically, Image AI utilizes existing deep learning algorithms like RetinaNet and YOLO. Yeah. So we'll go ahead. Yeah. I'll post I have a collab link. I'll post it. So give me a few minutes, please. So we're doing our practicals on Colab. You can as well do it on your computer, right? So in case you don't want to have to connect to Google Colab. Give me a minute, please.
Okay.
Okay. So if you, that's the link. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Can you see my Colab screen?
No, not your collab screen.
Okay, hold on.
See your slide.
All right.
You can see your face.
Okay. All right. So can you see my Colab screen?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Thank you. So we're using Colab, like I said, so that everyone can have access to it. And in the chat, what's the chat here? So here's the link to the Colab notebook, you can please make a copy so that, yeah, make a copy of this and have a copy. Then you can run it later in case you can't run it now. So, so first we want to do is, okay. So the first thing we're going to be doing is, we're going to be installing the deep learning tools that we need for this session. So we're going to be installing libraries like TensorFlow, ImageAI, that's the ImageAI itself, OpenCV, and Keras. All of these tools are already, they've already been built so that we don't get to do everything from scratch, right? So there's no point reinventing the wheel when there are things that there are already tools that helps you achieve the same goal faster. So we're going to be leveraging this tool. So for the sake of collab, we're going to be, first thing we want to do, if you have good internet, after making a copy, you need to set up the collab runtime area. So you go to runtime, if you've already made a copy of this, right? So we're going to choose a runtime type. We want to be using Google's GPU. Of course, I don't want to use my laptop. I don't want to use. So that's the whole essence of using Colab in the first place, so that we get to use Google's GPU and we'll save ourselves time. So once we do that, also try and make sure that here it's showing that it's connected, right? So let's connect it to it. So once you have that set up, then you can go ahead and install all of those libraries. So the basic thing you need to have, if you were to do this on your laptop, is to install Python, right? Python 3 precisely. Install Python 3, then make sure you have pip. If you have that on your laptop, you wouldn't need to use this exclamation mark to install, to run this project. But if you are doing it on your laptop, is what I mean. So for the sake of Google Colab, we have to use this command to do this installation. So let's wait. I hope my internet is fast enough to download this. So it doesn't really matter if you're doing it on your computer. If you decide to, like I said, you can decide to install you can install TensorFlow, but because we're using ImageAI, right? So be installing TensorFlow version 1.13.1. You have to install it like this. TensorFlow version 1.13.1. Then, but because we're using Google Colab, is why I'm installing the GPU version, right? It doesn't really matter whether you're doing it on your local computer or you're running it here. But yeah, at the end of the day, when you want to ship the product, you won't be shipping Google Colab, right? You still have to do it on your computer. So that's why I had to. That's a side note. So so we have all of this installed, right? So the next thing we want to do is want to go ahead and download one of the pre-trained models. So like I said, they're already pre-trained models. Are going to be using YOLO. So let me also send the documentation for ImageAI in case you want to go through it at your spare time. It's really, the explanations are very simple, so you don't really have to stress about it. As far as you can read English, you can read it as well. So I'm sure you understand it. So yeah, let's post this here so that if you need to check this on at your spare, please go through the documentation. It's super easy. So on the documentation, if you're on this page, right? So we're going to be downloading one of the pre-trained models. So we have 3 pre-trained models here. I like the YOLO V3 specifically. If you click on this link, it takes you to, if you click on this, it should take you to, oh shit, no way. I like being on the page. So I'm going to open it in a new tab, right? When you click on this, you see the pre-trained models here. Download this particular one, YOLO H5, because I feel after going through trying to use the several pre-trained models. This gives me a very high accuracy. So that's why I'm recommending this. So please, if you're downloading, download YOLO Victory, which is this, please. All right, so haven't done that. If you have that, if we run this, we'll see on this part of the tab after it's downloaded. So we'll have the model on this part of a page. All right. So like I said, don't forget, the goal is we want to have something tangible enough, right? So that we don't go through the whole process of doing it from the scratch. That's why we're using pre-trained models, right? That's why we're using these tools. So I'm sure this has downloaded. As you can see here, this is the model that has been downloaded on our Colab, on our notebook rather. So once we have that, we're going to go ahead and import image, the regular way to import in Python. So like, if you need to go through the documentation again, please do. So we're going to, oh shucks. So we're going to import image AI, right? Once you, this is the line to import image AI. And as usual, we have to create an instance of the class. So of the, this is the object detection class, because basically what we want to do is to be able to detect objects from any image you upload, right? So this is the class we instantiate to create a new class, right? So after we have, this line helps us, you can name this, give it any name you want. It's basically instantiating an object of the class. So once you do that, the next thing for us to do is to set the instance property, because we are using, like I said, we are using YOLO, right? So we need to use we need to set the instance property to recognize that we are using the YOLO v3. So there are several, since you already know that there are several pre-trained models, if whichever the pre-trained model you decide to use, you have to use that. So for this, if you decide to use the RetinaNet, you have to set the instance to use RetinaNet. So don't forget that. So for us, we're using YOLO v3. So that's why we are doing this line. So after that, the next thing is for us to tell it to where to find our pre-trained model. So basically, this is the path, because it's directly here. If it was inside a folder, you know, we'd have to be adding /. So for us, for this, because it's downloaded directly inside this environment, so we have it here. So when we are done with that, the next thing we want to do is to load the model, right? So don't forget, it's object detection we are doing. So we want to load the model into our object and detection instance, right? So when we are done with that, the next thing for us to do is to call the detect objects from image class. So this will actually do the job of performing the detection, right? So we are going to input an image. So I'm going to upload an image from my computer, right? So that we have this. The image is already called pack.jpg. So let me see. Okay, let's go through this. So upload the image and you can use it to test our model. Where is this image? Okay, so what I can do without having to waste much time, we can go ahead and actually download an image from the internet. Can you still see my screen? Can you still see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so what I want to do, okay, so what I want to do is I want to download an image that has lots of objects so that we can see what we're talking about, right? London. Okay, yes, so I think this is good enough. It has lots of distraction, not really. Okay, let's go with this image. There's a lot going on here. Save image. Okay, so now that I have my image downloaded, I'm going to upload it. I hope this one doesn't go missing too. Oh yeah, this is the pack one, the image that I've just downloaded. So all I'm going to do is rename this. Yeah, the image has been uploaded here. I'm going to rename this to pack one. So this is basically telling the object detection class that, well, the instance rather, that this is the input image, our test image, right? So after, you know, at the end, usually when you're building a machine learning model, right? So you train it with a couple of data set, and at the end of the day, you're going to test it with other data sets to be sure that your model actually works the way you want it or gives the desired output. So this is one of the test data we're going to be using. So we want to then, as the name implies, the output image path. So we want to like say, oh, when you're whatever you find from this image, give me save it in this image name, right? So, and I won't bother about this one. I usually like my minimum percentage probability to be 30. So I won't talk too much about it. It's in the documentation. Then this one, you'll see what this one does later when we run this code. So I like being practical. So let's run this Colab. If you're wondering how to run the Colab, for the new people, if you're wondering how to run the Colab cells, so all you have to do is Shift Enter. Click on Shift Enter on any of the on each of the cells. It will run that particular cell. So yeah, so let's wait for our computer vision. Let's wait for it to perform its magic rather. Okay, so we can see it has finished running. Now in the image, I will show, let me go here first. Okay, so you can see this has changed, right? Previously, we had just the YOLO model, then we had the image we had before, right? What I'm going to do is download, you see, as you can see this is the output name that I set before, which is this. So now we have a result. So what I'm going to do is download this and I'm going to open it. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So, okay, yeah, sorry, this was the old one I did before. This is the new image that I put in there. Yeah, this is the new image I put. So this is the detected results, right? So we can see that it's already telling us that we have a bus with an accuracy of 99%. So it's accurately detected that this is a bus, this is a bus, this is a person, right? This is a stop sign, as you can see here, right? So yeah, so basically that's what we're trying to do, right? So yeah. All right.
An image or the code.
You said what?
Are we to see the images?
So you can, so the purpose of seeing this image is to see that, oh, what you have actually built is working. It's actually dictating, because that's the goal of what we are trying to do, to detect images and to detect objects in images, right?
Okay, so we can see your code. We can't see the image downloaded.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, let me show. Oh, sorry about that. Let me show the, okay, I'm going to, Right. Share screen. Okay. So can you see this image?
Nah,
Can you see this now? Can you see this image?
Victoria bus station.
Yes, this was the, look at the title here, Pack 1. This was the image you downloaded, right?
Definitely.
Yes. So now let me share the other screen. That's of the results after running the model. Okay. So can you see this now?
Yes, we can.
So, because at the end of the day, like I said, what we are doing is object detection. So now the system has been able to detect that, oh, these are their objects inside this image, and this particular object is a person with an 55% accuracy level. It has detected that this is a bus with a 99% accuracy level. In fact, it even went ahead to detect the stop sign, right? So yeah, so it detected one, two, like a couple of persons. So at the end of the day, the object in this image, the same way a human would have been able to say, oh, this is a person at this, just looking at this photo, this initial photo, right? The human brain would have been able to like say, oh, there's a person here, there's a person here, and there's a boss, and there are bosses here, right? So right now, we've been able to enable the computer system to also be able to perform this kind of, gain this kind of insight from images, from visuals generally. So that's the whole goal of the aim of computer vision. So if I also added something extra, if you decide to, so let's say you were doing all of this, like I said, you can decide to run it from your computer as opposed to using a Colab, right? So I explained the steps here. If you prefer to run this from your from your computer. So all you have to do is ensure that you have Python 3 installed, like I mentioned before, and you have pip installed. So you'll be using pip2, which is a package manager for Python, to install most of the other tools and libraries you are going to need, which are TensorFlow, ImageJ, and OpenCV. So if you need to run this from your computer, please don't forget to follow these steps and copy this code, right? So can you see my slide now?
No, we're still on the image.
Okay. So yeah, okay, let me move back to my slide. Okay. So the next steps for us. Okay. Sorry. So the next step for us is if you're able to do that, the next thing you want to do is how many people were on the slide and on the Colab and were able to run it?
Anybody?
Was anyone? Okay. Oh, sorry, I wasn't really looking at the comment, the chat rather. Was anybody able to run through the Colab notebook?
No, I didn't. Anybody? Drop a message on the chat board for us to
Please,
see.
yeah, so if you were able to run it, please let me know. If you had challenges around it, let me know. Then, so that's the reason why I put the other, the alternative to running it locally. Okay. All right. So thank you for the feedback.
Wow,
Oh.
amazing. Thank you.
All right. So then the next thing we are going to be doing after, if you're able to do that, I'm sure that I've given a couple of insight to how the computer systems are able to understand what's in the content of an image. In fact, like these are like the bare bones for self-driving cars, as mentioned earlier. So where we'll go from here is to basically what you want to do is to maybe go through the custom detection classes of ImageAI to actually do your own, detect your own objects. Like for this one was just so you can actually train your own custom detection class to detect whatever object you're interested in. Can you see my screen?
Definitely, your slide.
Okay. Okay, my slides. Okay, let's share this. Okay, so like I mentioned, you can actually go further by to dictate your own custom detection. There's really no time for us to do all of that right now. So, but you can go through the image AI documentation and actually create your own custom object detection. So you can detect your own image, whatever image of choice that you're interested in. So for this, an example is here where data sets were collected for HoloLens image data sets, HoloLens image data sets are collected and actually trained. So this guide will basically help you if you need to create your own custom detection models that you don't really have to go, you don't really want to do, you don't just want to stop at what we did before. So you can create yours if you decide to, in fact, just been able to identify any object of choice. So stop sharing this. Then apart from that, what the other thing you can do is to maybe expand on this knowledge now and okay, expand on this knowledge and sorry, gosh, can you see my slide?
No, we are seeing your face, your beautiful face.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let's see. Let's share this. So this is like the end of the presentation though. So other things you want to do, you may want to build this into a service like the ones you've seen on my personal projects list on dev moment. You would see those ones were hosted, they were built into services and are hosted. These are some of the examples of the ones that have been built for other customers, right? Other of my clients. So you can do the same, host it into a service so that other people can use it then. But don't forget that you still have to learn the theory of computer vision. It's not enough for you to just use image AI, which is very simple to use anyway. It's not enough for you to use image AI and actually build stuff. It's also important for you to learn the basics behind computer vision. All right, guys. Thank you. I hope this.
Thank you. So a quick question. So okay, I think you answered one already, saying we have to know the background of computer vision before going straight into it. So for the newbies among us, what's your advice? What do you suggest we do? How do you think we can come about this long process? Like any
Yes.
word of encouragement for us?
Okay, so I think for me, it's usually what I do when I'm trying to learn something new is to have a goal in mind, right? This is the main thing I'm trying to achieve. Learning this thing. So I don't just go to learn because it's interesting or because that's what people are doing. I just want to learn because I want to build. For example, I'm learning Vue.js, right? Because I want to be able to build front end for my apps. So all I have to do is, this is the goal and this is the app I'm trying to build, right? Then I go into it and learn, oh, what do I need to achieve this? What do I need to achieve this? When I've been able to do all of that, in the course of doing that, I'm getting insights about, oh, this is how this system works, right? So that's actually the point of doing this practical session so that we can see how it works in real life. That's a path that I follow, right? After all of this, then I go deep down to actually understand the core. So different people have different learning path. You have to decide what works for you. I wouldn't tell you this is the best way to do it. No, some people would prefer to first go into the practical, see how things work. Like me, I'd prefer to see it first before going into it, right? So people learn that way. But the main thing is, at the end of the day, you learn what you need. You don't need to learn everything. So if you want to focus on, choose an area of focus. If you want to focus on computer vision and you want to learn how to if you want to learn how to segment image objects in an image, right?
Okay.
Focus your learning on that. Don't try to learn everything. There's a lot to learn. So if you there will always be a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn. So one thing you have to do is just have a focus and tailor your learning path to achieving that focus. Definitely you learn other things on the side, but if you're trying to do learn everything at the same time, you may get frustrated. So my advice is have a focus, know what you're trying to achieve. Don't do it because other people are learning this or because this is the main thing that people are doing right now. Just know what you want to achieve. So let your goal be the driving force behind what you learn. Do you understand? Whatever you're trying to achieve, let it guide you into what you want to learn. So that's the I think that's the best way to gain an understanding of what you're trying to do, because that has been what has worked for me. I would always recommend that. But again, my second advice would be decide what works for you. What works for you may not work for the other person. Do what works for you. Try different things. Sometimes you may not get it once, right? But just keep trying different things. Try different learning paths. If you prefer to learn using videos, please go for videos. If you prefer to read text, some people learn better by just reading text. I don't learn that way. I learn by seeing. So it's either you're teaching, they are giving me a video to see. I'm actually seeing how it works in reality. Then I can think about it, like do my own thought process behind this. I'm like, okay, how does this eventually link to this, right? So all of that helps me learn whatever I have to learn faster. So like I mentioned, decide what you have a focus, know what you want to achieve, and let that guide what you're learning. And secondly, decide what works for you.
Thank you. You have a question. So someone says to make custom object detection, do someone also need HoloLens?
Oh no, you don't need HoloLens is a completely different ballgame entirely. The example I gave for HoloLens there is just to be able to detect HoloLens in images or videos. That's why the custom object detection in this guide up here is someone's project to, all the person wants to do is to detect HoloLens in videos or images. It's not, you don't need to learn, it's not even part of it at all, right? They are completely different things. So you can, like I said, you can create your own custom detection. You can say, oh, I want to detect only shoes that are Nike. I want to help this Nike company detect only where their logo is showing on, and only in images where their logo is showing. Do you understand? I can decide to say, oh, I want to create my own custom detection, like the custom detection model to only detect something specific, right? Or a couple of things, like the one we saw in the practicals that we did, right? That one was able to detect different objects in an image. You can focus and narrow it on one, which is an example of this custom object detection tutorial on this page. So basically what has been done here is the author here has collected several HoloLens images of data sets specifically for HoloLens. Then he has been able to label it and eventually gone through the process of creating a model that is able to identify that, oh, if I see this image, is there an HoloLens? Is this person wearing a HoloLens or not? Do you get? So that's just this is just a different thing, basically to detect strictly HoloLens. You can do yours to detect when somebody is holding an iPhone, right? You can train your own detection model to only recognize iPhones or Samsung or laptops in general, such that you see, like the image, like the photo in the previous slide when we started, right? Like the photo here. Yes, like the photo here, right? Yeah, like the photo here, you can decide to say, oh, when images or videos run through my model, I want to be able to understand what's going on here. I want to say, oh, this image should be able to tell me what what kind of area environment is this. That's basically like scene recognition, right? So this one is basically a workplace. So at the end of the day, the system should be able to tell you that, oh, this person, I want to only recognize workplaces. So that's where I can do my own custom detection, right? I want to just detect that this is a laptop, like objects basically. I want to detect that this is a laptop, or whatever object you're interested in. So the HoloLens is just an example. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. A very brilliant presentation. So thanks for coming. Really appreciate you. And if you
Thank
have any
you.
question, we'll also reach out to you on Twitter also.
Yes, please. I'm on
We'll be
Twitter.
dropping our Twitter. Yes, Twitter handle is already on the chat board, so you can follow her and ask her questions. She will always respond to our questions. So thank you. So
Yeah,
guys,
thank you so much, A.
Thank
Make
you,
a
everyone.
tweet. Let people know what you've learned here. Try and share experiences. So amazing. So on to our next amazing speaker. So Temi, over to you.
Yeah, so right now we'll be having Yemisi Adeojo. So she's going to be our last but not the least speaker today. So Yemisi Adeojo is a social entrepreneur passionate about designing and implementing solutions that enables access to quality education, decent work, and growth of businesses. Although she is a graduate of management accounting and has worked in roles that include project management, finance, and government, she sees technology as a way to create the change she wants to see in her community, especially at the grassroots level. So, guys,
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the session so far, and I've learned quite a bit. So thank you for putting this together as well. I know I have very limited time, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So today I'll be going through creating social change with technology. Okay, so I'm just going to put this on here. Creating social change with technology, and I'm going to be talking a bit about design thinking. And I also included, especially when you do not know how to code, because some of the women that have come in here are so amazing, and they're doing very amazing things that I don't know how to do yet. And I feel like I'm not a techie as they are, but still somehow I still manage to use technology for the community work that we do. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today and the process through it. So if you can maybe use the chat session, because I want to know that I am speaking to people and you can hear me, and I know that you're also supposed to be tweeting as well. So that would be really great. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into it. Okay, I'm going to start with my story. So in 2018, or we could backtrack a bit to 2017 when I moved back to Nigeria. And I know most people, I don't know who is here and who knows me and who doesn't. I'm just going to assume that I'm speaking to all of you for the first time ever. So I moved back to Nigeria in 2017 after graduating from my undergraduate degree. And when I moved back, I wasn't very sure what I was coming home to and opportunities and so on. So some of the things that helped me why I found my foot was technology. So being able to use my phone and my laptop to work remotely to create solutions that people needed. So from my room in Kaduna, I was organizing events for clients in London. I was working as a remote executive assistant. I was working as a programs manager for an edtech company in Lagos. And doing all of these things sort of helped me stay productive and earn some money while I pretty much figured out what I wanted to do in Nigeria. And something I always say for me is as long as I have my phone, my laptop, and internet, electricity, that's pretty much all I need to make money. So in 2018, I moved to Kwara State for my national youth service. Before I moved to Kwara State, I had never been to Kwara State before, and I did not have family in Kwara State. So I was like, it was a fish out of the pond. After a while, a few months, because I'm very passionate about community work and about engaging young people. So when I'm in a place, I quickly notice issues that affect young people. And so a few months into staying in Kwara, I realized, oh, Kwara State has a lot of young people. They have over 7 higher institutions, and a lot of young people travel down from different parts of Nigeria to come to Kwara State to learn in this higher institution. It has one of the most prominent federal universities in Nigeria as well. And I realized even if we have a lot of young people here, there are not a lot of opportunities for these young people to productively engage themselves. So what this means is during the holidays, there's nothing to keep them here. There's nothing to keep them engaged. Even now that the schools are on strike, so not a lot of private companies are employing and paying very well. People just go to the mall and hang out from morning to night. And I realized also that a lot of these young people did not know how to use their smartphone or their laptop to create anything for themselves, to work, to gain a skill, or even to build their businesses. And so I decided to address this problem. And that led to me organizing the first Learn Digital Summit. So basically, I wanted to host an event where we would bring in as many young people as possible and business owners, as well as professionals. And they're going to come and talk about how to use digital tools to be more productive. And being productive could mean growing your business, acquiring a new skill, or working remotely like I was doing. I wasn't really sure what to expect because, as I said earlier, I was just new in the town. I did not know anybody. I just saw a problem and I wanted to address it. And for me, one of the ways to address that was organizing an event and having a conversation about the impact that digital tools can have in an individual's life. So we had the first Learn Digital Summit sometime in August 2018, and we had over 600 people in attendance. Like literally, the hall could not fit in people. And it was a great conversation. Like even till days, I still get messages from people that say, "Oh, after this event, I picked up this skill and now I've started my own business, or I was able to get this job, or it made me curious about web design. Now I'm a woman, I make websites for people," and all of that. So that was where a lot of what I do right now started from. And as most people here know, it has grown on to become other things as well. So just very quickly, what is social change? I'm sure you can see my screen, so there's no need to read that out. And I'm also going to ask you, what are the areas in your community where you feel like you can create social change in Nigeria? So what areas around you, even on the news, on social media, what areas do you feel like really need some form of change right now, or some form of influence impact? I'm just going to be in the chat session reading out your answers.
We need responses, so just drop it on the chat board.
Yeah, please just drop it on the chat board. So
Areas in which you feel need change in your community or anywhere around you, or even in general, in Nigeria as a whole.
I can't see anyone's answers, so I'm just going to just go on. I hope that at some point, okay, I can see answers coming in. Great, great. I can see agriculture, health, quality education, definitely, and so on. I can see education for girls and nerds, definitely. Yes, very, very amazing answers. That's good. So in my notes, I had education, I had enterprise, so businesses, the way that we do businesses definitely needs some form of social change, especially now that we're in an era of, we're in a virtual era. Employment, definitely. So we need to be thinking about how more people can have access to jobs and creating more job opportunities for young people as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go on to the next thing. Thank you so much for your answers, by the way. So we're just going to go on to, okay. So now we've talked about, we've listed some things like agriculture, health, enterprise, employment. So we've mentioned some things that we need to see social change in. Okay, so what role does technology play in making social change happen? What role does technology play in making social change happen? I'm going to just backtrack a bit and share and I won't call it an incident, an occasion that happened some weeks back. So recently, my team and I have been setting up a community center in Ilorin where we plan to create various programs and services that will be targeted at supporting business owners and students, recent graduates, and so on. And I needed a blind for one of the rooms, so window blinds for one of the rooms. I had so many things to do. All my team members were engaged. So I decided to go on Gigi to look for blinds. And I also went on Twitter and Instagram to look for interior decorators that sold blinds. So I found a number of people. I reached out to them via SMS because most of them would have their phone numbers on Gigi, for example. I also DM'd some people on Instagram as well. So I told them what I was looking for, the size, the color, and the quality of material. So there are different materials that they use in making blinds. And a number of them replied me, some of them did not. So I went on Gigi. I found the phone number. I contacted the phone number. I didn't call, I sent an SMS saying what I wanted and where I got their number from. And then some of them replied me on WhatsApp. So one of them that replied me on WhatsApp, I was comfortable with his price compared to others. It was not reasonable. He also sent me pictures. I sent him a picture of the wall of the room that I wanted the blind to go in, and he advised on colors that would be suitable, and as well as the kind of material that I would go for if I'm looking for something that would last a long time. And then he requested for payment before delivery. So he requested for about 80% payment. Bear in mind, I've not spoken to this person on the phone. I've never met this person before. I do not know where their shop is. Like literally, I can send this 80% payment and that will be the end of it. Like he can block me and whatever. But I was like, no worries. If we lose, we lose. So I sent the money to him. And we agreed on a date where he would come and fix the blinds. So he came on that day he didn't come actually, he sent one of his apprentices to come and fix the blind, and then I made the remaining payment of 20% via transfer. And later that day, I was thinking about, because something, if you know me well, something I'm very passionate about is teaching micro businesses how to use digital tools. And this is one of the reasons why this person has a store in God knows where, in Ilorin, but I've been able to buy from him without going to the store, without knowing him, even without speaking to him on the phone. Everything happened via text and transfer. And this is one of the ways that technology has enabled this person's business to grow and reach more people, even beyond their local region. There are people even in Nigeria right now that use their WhatsApp or Instagram to sell to people across the world. We are now in the knowledge economy, so if you have a bit of knowledge or experience in something, you can package it as a course or an ebook, and literally anybody in the world can buy it. So this is one of the ways that technology has created social change, because it has influenced the growth of businesses, and in influencing the growth of businesses, it has also created employment for other people. So let's say if I had a physical store, I can only sell to people who know me or who live around that area, and maybe at most I make 5 sales in a day. Now with Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook or Twitter, I'm able to make sales to over 100 people. Do you not think that I'm going to create employment for others? Because now I cannot handle this business alone. I have to bring on other people to support me in handling this business. And it may look very flippant, but something as small as teaching a micro business owner how to use Twitter can go a long way to impact how they carry out their business and even create more opportunities for people in their community. And this is what I do, and this is what my social enterprise does. So as much as I do not know how to code or do open source or computer visioning, which I've learned today, I'm still able to support the growth of local businesses and create employment in my local community by teaching people how to use basic technology and digital tools. The same thing for education. Now that most schools are locked down, my social enterprise, for instance, has built an online school where people whose school has not provided alternative learning can go and learn. There are also people doing various courses online, so you do not need to be in a physical classroom to learn. This is how technology is impacting the education sector. We also have the health sector, with the pandemic going on, not a lot of people feel comfortable going to the hospital to get treatments, even for things like a flu or malaria. Sometimes you even be turned away. Now people have built apps or online services, even like WhatsApp services that you can use to get a doctor's consultation. You can use to consult a doctor and maybe get know the kind of drugs that you can get, or even get a diagnosis on what is wrong with you. So those are ways that technology have gone on to impact, to create social change in our communities. So I know sometimes people say not everything in our community needs technology. We don't need technology for every social issue. While that is true, to a large extent, technology still has a role to play, especially in the sense that it creates more reach. So if you are trying to address a social issue like rape, you come on Twitter and you talk about it again and again and again. You're passing information to millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people that you're never going to see. You're influencing their mindset you're helping them understand what consent is, and you're influencing their mindset on sexual assault. That's a way that technology that has been used to create social change. So you're an online activist, but you don't know how to code. However, just by tweeting, you are reaching millions of people that you may never get to see, and you are influencing their ideologies on certain social issues. There is also the role of scalability. I gave the case study earlier of the business owner who I reached out to via Gigi. This man can easily sell to anyone in the world without seeing them face to face, without them knowing where his store is. His business can grow in terms of reach, profit, and revenue because of technology. It also improves operations. So in addition to what we do with Circle Labs, I also co-own another social enterprise called Thrift Africa. And one of the things that Thrift Africa does is mainly around strategy and operations. So we also provide collateral-free loans. And one of the things that I did recently was to create a very simple Excel sheet that micro business owners can use to track their stock. That way they're able to know how much stock is left, how much they've sold. This can go a long way to also decrease stealing. And it may just seem like a very basic thing. Oh, I created a Google Sheet and then shared the link to micro business owners and taught them how to use it. But the feedback that I have gotten from this on how it has improved their operation. So now they're able to track their goods, they're able to track their finances, their revenue, they're able to forecast profits, they're able to make better decisions for their businesses because they have a system in place that has improved operations. And this is something that I was able to create without knowing how to code, but just basic understanding of digital tools that already exist. I've already talked about creating opportunities for more people to join in. So now in the area of remote working, you can be building an idea or working on a solution, and anyone in the world can be a part of it because of technology. And this idea or solution you're building may not even be related to tech or coding or whatever. So these are the various ways that technology plays a role in creating social change, okay? So I'm just going to round up by talking a bit about design thinking. And this is, okay. Design thinking is a flexible process that is design oriented. And okay, design thinking is a flexible process that is solution focused to help solve problems that everyday people have issues with. Okay, so when you're working on an idea or a solution, or you want to work on a project, design thinking goes a long way to ensure that you're not wasting your time and you're not building in a bubble. So something I heard one of the speakers mention earlier was on community, the importance of community. So you're not building in isolation. Because most times when I consult for people, they have really great ideas, but then they've not spoken to anyone else about the ideas. They've not even spoken to the people that are creating the idea for, to get their thoughts on it. They're just filled with passion of this change that they want to make, and they've not done any form of design thinking around if it is suitable and sustainable. So Design thinking has various stages, which I'm sure you can see on my screen. I'm just going to check the chat session to make sure that everyone can see my screen. Okay.
We can see your screen.
You can see my screen. Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, so the first stage of design thinking is to empathize. And what that simply means is you have a better understanding of the problem that you wish to conquer. So you found the problem, and then you speak to various people involved to better understand the problem. You're not building in isolation. So you're speaking to experts. You're speaking to people who have been significantly affected by this problem to get their thoughts and ideas on what the issue is, where their pain point is, and so on and so forth. So, for instance, I'm trying to think of a suitable idea. So, when we organized the first Learn Digital Summit, as I said, I really just wanted something that created conversation and that opened people's mind to the possibilities that digital tools presented for them. But even after through that conversation, I was able to pinpoint other pain points that people were going through, and that has gone on to significantly influence other solutions that we created. So I've not just gone forward with creating ideas and solutions without stepping back to understand what people's major pain points are. So empathizing is really having a better understanding of the problem by speaking to the people involved. So in addition to speaking with experts and speaking with people who are expressing the problem, are you also speaking to people who have designed a solution in the past to address that problem? Because most times that thing that you're about to do, someone else has already done it. So how is what you're doing going to be an improvement on what has already been done? There are also loads of research materials that you can go through as well to give you a better understanding of the issues that people are facing. I'm just going to check the chat box because I can see a message. Okay. That's fine. So after empathizing, the next step is define. And define simply means analyzing your data and putting them in order to better understand the problem. So you have this idea that you've identified this problem in your community. You've spoken to various people involved, so experts. You've spoken to people who have experienced the problem. You've spoken to people who have tried to create a solution to the problem in the past. Now you kind of have various information. So defining is really sitting down to understand the various information that you have gathered so far. So one of the issues that we got to realize when we started conversation around improving the use of digital tools to address economic issues in Kwara State was the cost of data. So the cost of data in Kwara was significantly more expensive than other states, and that was because we had very limited data providers in Kwara State compared to places like Lagos, Kaduna, and Abuja. And this significantly goes a long way to impact the kind of things that people can do. And so over time, part of our strategy involved having conversations with key stakeholders in the state. Like our last event, we had the deputy governor involved, and right now we're having a conversation with someone very top position who can really significantly address the solution as well. And we've also seen significant changes around the digital economy that the state is trying to implement as well. And all of this started from just having a conversation in a small room and trying to solve a problem. Another issue that we realized is the harassment. So security officials harassing young people when they see smartphones or laptops. I'm sorry, when we see them with smartphones or laptop. And so when we had our last major event as well, we invited the leader of the police unit. I can't remember what they're called now. So someone very prominent in the police force was also in attendance, and he was part of our panel where we had a conversation around police harassment. or yeah, security force harassment from SARS and so on and so forth. So we're only able to define the solution that way because we had empathized and we had had various conversations with various people at various points of the problem that we're trying to address. And then you ideate. That's when you start coming up with solutions that will solve the problem. So it doesn't have to be one solution. You can think outside the box. Think about various things. Then you start thinking about okay, how are these various ideas that I have going to effectively create prototypes. So just really minimum specific features that addresses the problem, and then you can get feedback. Feedback is very, very important. Whatever you're doing, whatever idea, or solution or product they are trying to deploy, make sure you're getting feedback from relevant stakeholders, because this goes a long way to help you improve and ensure that this solution that you're creating is effectively addressing problems in your community. And then tests, when you test, you see what works, you see what's not working. There is no box, so if something doesn't work, it's okay to throw it out the window and look for something else that works. Or maybe it works but not as effectively as you want it to. And so you can always find a way to improve on your processes. So it's an ongoing process. It's something that, okay, times have changed now. How can we ensure that more businesses know how to use digital tools? What are the challenges to helping more businesses know how to use digital tools? How should we get feedback on the way that businesses are using digital tools? And so this is just how to use design thinking to implement your solutions that addresses or that creates social change.